Yeah, so just real quick, this is the February 27th, 2024 meeting of the Washington Township BZA. Brenda Smith, Travis Bond, Brad Graham is the president, or chair, I guess. Nyla Phillips, and Mike James is the vice chair. My name's Jake Mercer. I'm the zoning inspector for Washington Township. We've got a few county officials here. We'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Cindy Land, Assistant Prosecutor.
Phil Rigo, County Prosecutor.
Heather Pendleton, Assistant Prosecutor.
All right. And then, just real quick, Brad had asked if I had received any correspondence. I did receive one email regarding the case that's on the agenda, so I'll just read it into the record real quick. This is from Gerald Lee. He says, "Thank you for sending me the meeting notice and information by Wind Waste Innovations regarding parcel number 5100001032252. My wife and I will be out of the area on the 27th and cannot attend in person, and I have elected to comment on this issue with the following statement below. My name is Gerald Lee, and my wife and I own a farm about a mile northwest of the subject acreage, specifically the property located at 3287 County Road 23, Fostoria, Ohio. I'm a farmer and a scientist and a geologist holding a master's degree in geology from Miami University of Ohio. I have spent over 36 years in the management of fluid flow through porous and permeable media. I take exception to wind waste application and oppose the permit requested. Reasons that support my conclusions are submitted below to the Washington Township Board of Zoning Appeals for their consideration. 1, Washington Township is zoned for agricultural use. The removal of viable topsoil from its productive status and replacing it with a lake is illogical and violates the written zoning code. The removal of the productive topsoil and relocating it out of the county as a landfill cover permanently destroy its ability to produce crops in the future. I realize that the removal of and use of the soil to create this lake is not part of the stated permit, but the motive of wind waste is clear here, and their end goal is not to solely create a lake, but rather to develop a source for topsoil cover. Number 2, the removal of topsoil will take approximately 155.908 acres out of production of grain and farm products. Each bushel of product, corn, produces over 87,000 calories, and each acre provides 15 million calories. 2,500 calories per day. A human requires over 900,000 calories per year. This calculates that an acre of corn can feed 16.5 people per year. The total food production permanently removed from this 155-acre lake would feed the equivalent of over 2,500 people per year for many generations to follow. Number 3, soil also has the ability to promote carbon sequestration in the environment. Studies have estimated that 0.77 metric tons of carbon dioxide per acre per year are captured by topsoil. The effectiveness of this capture is dependent upon tillage and the crops planted. One of the greatest factors in promoting effective carbon sequestration is to minimize the disturbance of the soil. This condition will be violated as the topsoil will be dug up, moved, and spread over the adjoining landfill. Once water is in the lake, the benefits of the soil sequestration will also be negatively affected. Number 4, the documents provided to me indicate that 3 residents will be separate from the lake project. Assuming that these residences have septic systems, the question not addressed is where will these systems empty into. Notes on the plan state that any tile will be daylighted into the pond, thus providing a source of gray water to the lake. Number 5, the plans also indicate the presence of at least 7 wells of varying depths over the acreage which penetrate the Silurian limestone groundwater aquifer. No documentation has been provided on how these wells were drilled and completed. Specifically, were these wells core holes or large water wells? Was casting set in these wells? If so, how deep and what was the size? Also, how were these wells abandoned? were cast iron bridge plugs set isolating the aquifer. Where the wells filled with cement, or was the bentonite used? Was cement brought in, brought up the outside of the casting? What was the plan to isolate these wells from lake water covering them? And drinking water zones range from 80 to 178 feet in this area. Documentation on this topic is lacking in the data I have. Number 6, the plan sent to me do not provide information on the complete project objectives for the lake. Specifically, what is the time frame for building the lake? How is the public to be protected from the dangers the lake will create? How will the lake be managed once created? What is the exit plan for the ownership of the lake when Wind Waste Innovation ceases corporate activity in the area? Lastly, number 7, in reality, this lake is going to be a borrow pit, a point verbally acknowledged by Wind Waste at the December zoning meeting. By definition, a borrow pit is an area created to remove earthen materials from, which will be used for fill or cover at another location. Your consideration of my concerns on this issue will be greatly appreciated. Respectfully submitted, Gerald B.
Okay.
So
You don't have any other.
that's my only correspondence.
Okay. Before we get started, this is an appeal hearing. It's not a public hearing, so the people in the audience will not have input. We're going to have Wind Waste and their representatives. They'll have the opportunity to come up and state their case to the board. After that, the zoning commission members will be able to answer questions or clarify anything that the zoning BZA may have after the presentation by Wind Waste. And I think the township trustees may be called upon to give statements, but we're only considering the issue of the appeal of the denial of a permit to build a pond. Okay? All right. Wind Waste, would you like
You ready?
to present?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We have just a second to set up PowerPoint, so it'll take a minute. And can we have, we're going to introduce ourselves. Do we have an introduction so we kind of know who we're?
Sure, absolutely.
Can I do this?
You asked if she can mention.
Can you just know everybody? Sorry,
You want me to circle through every time?
almost back in one second.
This is, and these are just copies of the presentation. Yeah. Actually, the biggest part is the zoning. Jake. And now, that'll be the document for the record. Are you keeping the record?
Can you all see it?
Comes back on the screen.
You should have just done it on the door.
Just raise your hand. The attorneys do not need to be sworn in. Mr. Nutter, and if she's not an attorney,
Can you all see that? Okay.
Yeah. Before we start, I gotta do a swearing in.
well, only if they're ready to speak,
Oh.
whoever's gonna speak. But why don't you introduce the,
Okay.
did you hear the introductions of the board? earlier?
No, we did not.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll go down.
Sure, yeah.
So again, Jake Mercer, I'm the zoning inspector for the township.
Brenda Smith,
Travis Bond.
Brad Graham.
Nyla Phillips.
Mike James.
Okay. We'll introduce ourselves as well. My name's Dale, and I'll speak up so hopefully most people can. My name's Dale Papasick. I'm an attorney with the law firm Squire Patton Boggs, and we represent Wind Waste Innovations of Seneca County. And today we have with me my client, Ben Nutter. Ben, you could introduce yourself.
Ben Nutter, Community Engagement Specialist with Wind Waste Innovations.
And then my colleague, Maddie Mishler. Maddie, you can introduce yourself.
Maddie Mishler, associate at Squire.
And Dean.
Dean Henry with the law firm of Bevan Henry and Tiffin. Good evening.
So we appreciate the opportunity to make a presentation here. It'll only be about 15 minutes, and I think since we have a lot of people that really want to understand what's going on, we're just going to read it for the most part. So kind of put everybody on the same page. So what we're doing here is we're presenting our case on the appeal of the denial of our application for a zoning certificate. And that denial was issued about January 8th, and we filed our appeal on January 26th. And we were required to file that appeal within 20 days of the decision. We did that, so the appeal was timely. I think what we'd like to do here is enter some additional evidence into the record. And as we understand it, the record as it'll stand after today is the materials that were presented at the original zoning commission hearing.
Correct.
And then the documents that we've provided all you, and which I provided to Jake, so that'll be a record. And then whatever we present and talk about here. So we'll do our thing,
The
and then
meeting
we're
is being
happy to
recorded.
answer whatever questions you want.
Yeah, the meeting is being recorded, and a transcript will be provided for anybody who's interested.
So the way we understand the way the zoning resolution works, we have a quorum, so we're capable of conducting this session. We file our appeal in 20 days. Jake has set this meeting at a reasonable time and place. It's evidenced. This is an administrative review, and actually the Board of Zoning Appeals has quite a bit of authority here and can make essentially whatever decisions that the zoning commission could make. So this is almost a brand new deal. And then what will come out of this session, hopefully, is an order by the Board of Zoning Appeals based on your assessment of the situation. Our expectation is that you will order Jake to issue the zoning certificate. If that doesn't happen, there's another step that we have to go through. And we'll describe that at least a little bit. Again, we're trying to put everybody on the same page. And Maddie, if you back up to the first page first. There's B's and there's butterflies on this chart. It's not cinema. What it really is when we get to the end, the long-term strategy for the agricultural use of this property is to develop a commercial apiary. Okay, so there'll be a pond, of course, but then there'll be a commercial apiary. An apiary is bee production and bee husbandry. So that's why they're there. And also there's a federal program to encourage the population of other kind of pollinators like monarch butterflies. Hancock County is not a part of that federal program. Seneca County is, and a bunch of surrounding counties. But it's a pretty serious program here in the state, and we're hopeful that this property will become part of that program. So we'll go through a quick executive summary and then a few details. So Wind Waste intends to purchase about 156 acres of agricultural property located on County Road 216 in Hancock County, Ohio. Agricultural use of the property will be maintained and enhanced according to a professionally developed management plan. So it's agricultural property now, and it will remain agricultural property. There will be an artificial pond created on the property according to zoning resolution Article 12, Section 20. There's really only 3 requirements that we have to meet to be able to develop this pond on the property, and we have met all those requirements. So the applicable requirements are meeting the zoning requirements, provision of a drawing approved by the Hancock Soil and Water Conservation District, and setback requirements. Okay? That's all we have to meet. The use of the excavated material will be for borrow at Wind Waste Seneca County's landfill directly across the street. And the use of that borrow will not change the character of the agricultural property. It is agricultural and it will remain agricultural. We'll describe why that is the case. So, what's it going to look like? At the end, there will be about a 95 and almost 96 acre lake or a pond. And the pond will be developed in approximately 4 stages of about 25 acres each. And during the process of that development, the existing agricultural land will continue to be used under the use that it experiences now. And as the development of the lake proceeds, that'll of course decline, but that will continue as long as the lake development is underway. As I said, the agricultural process will be maintained. There will be about 25 acres of woodland that will remain, and they will be enhanced to include greater biodiversity and basically improve the value of the woods themselves, and then to support the other uses that we described. 14 acres of agricultural field will be maintained in the long run, and that 14 acres will be developed into the apiary. There'll be 21 acres of natural buffer that isolates the property from neighboring properties. The planting and development of the apiary in conjunction with planting native species and pollinator-friendly vegetation will be the end result. So we've already gone through the introductions, and then there's a list of attachments here. This is in the PowerPoint that you have, and the attachments are the additional items that I've given you. This is just to put everybody on the same page. This is looking north off of County Road 216 onto the property. I think the trees there in the background are the woods that we talked about, which will be maintained. An aerial view of the property in question is the Lowry property, outlined in that light blue color. Wind currently owns that little yellow property immediately south of the Lowry property, and then all of the other properties that are outlined in yellow. And then the landfill itself is in the lower right-hand corner of that large yellow block. This is just a closer view of the property. The Lowry property is that that's outlined in red. And then this is the proposed project at the property. So the lake there is self-explanatory. The green area on the upper right and top of the property is the woods that will be maintained. The orange areas are the areas that will be developed into the apiary and pollinator supporting properties. And then, as you can see, there's a boundary or a barrier around the property, and all those boundaries meet the setback requirements, which we'll talk about. So, artificial ponds and lakes are a permitted use in all use districts in Washington Township. Section 20, which identifies artificial ponds, and that's section 20 of the zoning, Article 12 of the zoning resolution, says artificial ponds or lakes shall be permitted in all use districts with review of the zoning inspector. So that's agricultural, residential, industrial, commercial. They're permitted uses in every one of those districts. All artificial ponds or lakes shall comply with all requirements of this resolution, including but not limited to setback and yard requirements from main structures. Okay. In determining compliance with setbacks and yard requirements, the measurements shall be made as follows. I'll read this. For in-ground ponds or lakes or portions thereof from the edge of the pond or lake bank nearest the road right-of-way or a lot line to the road right-of-way or lot line. And for above-ground ponds or lakes or portions thereof from the lowest point on the outside of any embankment nearest the road right-of-way or lot line to the road right-of-way or lot line. It's 40 feet in all cases. And then a permit may be issued only after the zoning commission approves, after their approval, and if the application for a zoning certificate for an artificial pond or lake is accompanied by a drawing made or approved by the Hancock County Soil and Water Conservation District, which we have and which we've submitted and which is also included in this package. That's part of the record. So pretty clear, artificial ponds are permitted in all districts. So, as I said, we have a drawing approved by the Hancock Soil and Water Conservation District, and that accompanied our original application. For the benefit of all, on November 7th, 2023, Winway Seneca County obtained an approval letter from the Hancock Soil and Water Conservation District, which was submitted to the Washington Township trustees. The letter provided that the Soil and Water Conservation District has found the submitted plans for this pond to be satisfactory and gives approval based on site location and features. As I said, that document's attached to the package I handed to you all. Setback and yard requirements are pretty straightforward. Our pond meets these requirements applicable to an agricultural district. And what we've described here is what's in the zoning code, and I'll kind of walk through it. So in an agricultural district, when you have minimum zoning lot size per dwelling unit, it's acres per unit. It says 35 acres. That's not applicable to our situation because we won't have any dwelling units. Maximum height of structures in an agricultural district is 2 stories. Not applicable to us because we don't have any structures. Minimum yard setbacks per lot in feet. Front lot 40 feet, side lot 40 feet, rear lot 40 feet. We meet all of those. Minimum floor area per unit in a square foot. An agricultural district 1,200. That's not applicable to us because we don't have any floor area. And then the last, maximum percent of lot area covered by all buildings. It's not applicable to us because we don't have any buildings. Site plan requirements. Although it's not applicable to our agricultural use, we've satisfied it anyhow. So, I'll read the red. A site plan is not required for agricultural developments under Article 12, Section 16 of the zoning resolution. Nonetheless, Winway Seneca County drawings meet the requirements outlined in Section 16.3. A site plan shall be submitted to the zoning commission for approval of any development except agricultural, single-family and two-family residentials. We've submitted that plan to the zoning commission. Every site plan submitted to the zoning commission shall be in accordance with the requirements of this resolution and shall be in such form as the zoning commission shall prescribe in its rules. And I believe the zoning commission actually specifically asked for the site plan, which request we satisfy. Site plans shall be submitted to the zoning commission at least 14 days in advance of the next regularly scheduled commission meeting, and that was the meeting in January, and we accomplished that. And unless the applicant agrees to an extension of time in writing, the zoning commission shall take one of the following courses of action at such meeting. And then we describe the information that was there. I won't go through that. So, the question is agricultural use, right? And the zoning code, the zoning resolution says that A1 agricultural districts are intended to provide for agricultural use of those areas best suited to farming activity, and recognizing that prime farmland is an unrenewable resource to protect and preserve such land for agricultural uses. Under the zoning code, under the zoning resolution, farming is defined as agricultural use. The Ohio Revised Code, which is kind of the umbrella rule over all the things that we do here, defines agriculture in the context of township zoning resolutions, and it's very expansive. So agriculture in Ohio means farming, ranching, algiculture, which means growing algae for commercial use, aquaculture, apiculture, apiculture meaning bee husbandry, horticulture, viticulture, animal husbandry, including but not limited to the care and raising of livestock, equine and fur-bearing animals, poultry husbandry and the production of poultry and poultry products, dairy production, production of field crops, tobacco, fruits, vegetables, nursery stock, ornamental shrubs, ornamental trees, flowers, sod, or mushrooms, timber, pasturage, any combination of the foregoing, and the processing, drying, storage, and marketing of agricultural products when those activities are conducted in conjunction with, but are secondary to, such husbandry or production. So agriculture is defined about as broadly as you can define it. Winway Seneca County's agricultural use of the property will be as follows. And we really have intended to go above and beyond the zoning requirements to the maximum extent we can. And as we describe this process, we'd like to have the community's input into how this property is developed. So we'll offer that out as our intent for the development of this property. So as we said, artificial ponds or lakes are permitted in the use districts. Our property totals just about 156 acres. The proposed pond, when complete, will cover approximately 95 acres, with the remaining balance of the site approximately 60 acres. Of this remaining balance, an estimated 25 acres will remain preserved and enhanced as a woodland. 14 acres will be agricultural fields and 21 acres acting as a buffer zone. Of the 14 acres that will exist while we're developing the pond, we intend to lease that out without a commercial gain to area to continue planting, growing, or harvesting consistent with past practices and future enhancements. During the pond development, we will begin implementation of the agricultural enhancements consisting of planting native wildflower and pollinator mix in connection with native tree species to support the use of the property as an apiary. Not only will the property support the apiary, it will be biodiverse habitat for local pollinator populations such as monarch butterflies. So there's a little bit of background on these kinds of things. And it says not only is an apiary squarely an agricultural use as defined by the Ohio Revised Code, pollinators like bees and butterflies are critical to support the agricultural economy of this community and the state. Pollinators, as most people know, are crucial to the production of agricultural products. Extensive research has been conducted in providing habitat and food sources for native pollinators in the state. How does the pond benefit the pollinators? Pollinators need access to clean water and a diverse source of pollen nectar throughout the growing year when they are the most active. Programs that help support pollinator needs through native plantings, water management, creation of apiaries via local and commercial beekeeping efforts are crucial to supporting local food production in the Northwest Ohio region. And then a biodiverse habitat for bees also provides a source of food and habitat for birds and other native animal species. So, when the zoning commission denied our application, they issued a sheet of paper that had some, I described them as thought fragments in our appeal. It was a little bit hard to read what they were. So, but one of the things we understood was that there was an objection to the pond development because it was thought that it was surface mining, and a surface mining permit was required. In our case, a surface mining permit is not required, and I'll read why that is. But even if it was, that permit doesn't change the character of the use of the property. It will always be agricultural. So, under Ohio Revised Code 1514.01, the extraction of minerals and other than coal by a landowner, meaning us, for the landowner's own non-commercial use, meaning we're not going to sell it, where such material is extracted and used in an unprocessed form on the same tract of land, is explicitly excluded from the definition of surface mining. Maddie, could you go back to the picture that shows the properties outlined? You have the Lowry property, that little yellow property, and then you have the yellow property. It's the same tract of land because they're contiguous. Okay, Maddie, you can go back. So, a surface mining permit is not required for the proposed pond development at this property. But even if it was, it doesn't change the character of what that property is going to be. All the property that's not pond will be agricultural. Okay? So, and if every pond or lake construction in the state required a surface mining permit due to a farmer wanting to sell topsoil or somebody wanting to sell topsoil, that would be an untenable situation in the state. And also just kind of from a practical perspective, surface mining requires trucks and excavators is really no different than from farming that uses bulldozers, excavators, large tractors, aircraft, trucks, harvesting equipment, and others. So, the brass tacks here. The commission did not have discretion to deny the application because we met all of the requirements. In Ohio, a permitted use, as permitted use is used in the zoning resolution, is a land use that is allowed as of right. So it's our right to develop this property as a pond, provided the landowner meets all the other requirements, which we've shown we do. And then I cite a case there that's included in the package. The Ohio Supreme Court in 1981 heard a case on a zoning matter, and they decided they included some language in their decision which is fairly instructive, and I'll read that. All zoning decisions, whether on an administrative or judicial level, and this is an administrative level, should be based on the following elementary principles which underlie real property law. Zoning restrictions are in derogation of common law and deprive a property owner of certain uses of his land to which he would otherwise be lawfully entitled. Therefore, such resolutions are ordinarily construed in favor of the property owner. Restrictions on the use of real property by the ordinance, meaning in this case the zoning resolution, or statute must be strictly construed, and the scope of the restrictions cannot be extended to include limitations not clearly prescribed in the resolution. I interpret that as saying what the zoning resolution says is what it means. So, the Washington Township Zoning Commission's discretion was limited to whether or not the proposed pond met the requirements of the zoning resolution, that is, the setback and the yard requirements, and the fact that the application was accompanied by a drawing approved by the Soil and Water Conservation District. So, y'all are going to do what you're going to do, and we hope you follow the law, and I think we made that fairly clear here. And our conclusion, the conclusion is this. The Board of Zoning Appeals is compelled by the Washington Township zoning resolution and Ohio law to direct that the zoning certificate be issued. To obtain approval from the zoning commission for the construction of the pond, Winway Seneca County only had to meet the requirements under the zoning resolution, such as setback and yard requirements, and provide a drawing approved by the Hancock Soil and Water Conservation District. Because an artificial pond is a permitted use, and our proposal met all the requirements, the commission did not have the discretion to deny it if the requirements were met. Winway Seneca County is committed to the continued agricultural use of the property in conjunction with construction of the pond. We plan to lease the property for continued field operations consistent with past practice. During development of the pond, we'll develop and implement plans to conserve approximately 14 acres for use as an apiary, consistent with the intent to benefit the environment, native pollinators, to support the region's agricultural economy. Use of excavated material from the pond construction activity as borrowed for WIN's adjacent contiguous landfill operations will not change the agricultural character of the property. And that's all we have, and we're happy to answer questions.
Does the zoning commission like to speak?
Randy, I gotta swear you in before you speak. So raise your right hand for me. Do you swear to or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
State your name for the record, please.
Randy Bose. When we had our meeting, we took into consideration the Washington Township zoning resolution was enacted for the purpose of promoting public health and safety. The zoning commission received a letter from the Hancock County Health Department's Director of Environmental Health with concerns of public health nuisance with the residential properties sewage systems outletting through our property. I had a phone conversation with her and she informed me that there are NPDES sewage systems draining through this property, potentially creating a public health nuisance and making this borrow pit not a good public recreation area, and thus negatively impacting the neighbor's property and property values. This parcel, as we stated, is in an A1 ag district, which is intended to provide for agricultural use of those areas best suited to farming activity, and recognize that prime farmland is an unrenewable resource, and the purpose of our zoning resolution is to protect and preserve such land for agricultural use. The intent is to provide for an environment of predominantly agricultural activity wherein residential development is clearly accessory and ancillary to a farming operation. This borrow pit is not an agricultural activity, it's an industrial use. That was our basis.
Would any of the trustees like to speak?
I've got a quick question. Was the issue of an apiary or any other, that was never brought up to you?
No.
Okay, and when you were, when you guys had this, did they talk to you about, pond, borrow pit, is there a difference? I know that you're an expert in the issue of ponds. Is there a difference between a pond and a borrow pit?
Yes. In my opinion, I've dug lots of ponds, and I have been around people who have dug holes and tried to call it a pond. In my opinion, in order to construct a good, proper, healthy pond, you have to build banks, which you're excavating the clay and compacting it so the water from the pond does not leak into neighboring adjacent aquifers or whatever else. And also ponds have a consistent bank elevation, and this one does not. There's, if I remember right, around not quite 20 feet of elevation difference from one corner to the other. And so up by 216, the water level is going to be at least 20 feet below the top of the bank.
Randy, how much the pond's water is lost a year to evaporation in this area?
On a breezy, hot summer day, you can lose over an inch a
Okay.
day.
So about a third of the water a year?
Yep.
And what is the ratio to surface area to a pond that needs to drain into that pond to keep it a pond?
If you want to keep it full in the summer months, you're probably going to have at least double.
Yeah, I always thought it was 5 or 6 to 1 ratio.
Yep.
Surface area going into the pond.
Yeah. Now in the springtime when you have heavy rains,
Right.
it doesn't need to be that much. But in the summertime, when you get an inch a day evaporation per acre, then yeah, you need probably 5 times.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I've got one more for the commission. How many different sets of plans did you guys receive for the ponds, for the borrow pit? And did the plans call it a pond or a borrow pit?
borrow bid.
Okay.
Well, we received the set the night of January 8th. And that was different than the ones we had received before the December meeting. I guess I've seen 3 or 4.
Okay, and with the set that was, one thing that nobody has mentioned was that the initial application for this was in September. It was signed by Mr. Nutter and it had a plan attached to it. And it had written in that it was for a recreational pond.
Mm-hmm.
Then it became a borrow pit, and then it became an apiary. And so the question is, nobody knows for sure what is actually being requested and offered. Is that not,
That.
is that an application?
That. What we presented
What
in the
you
record.
presented here is different than what was presented to them. You're actually asking, okay.
Go ahead.
You guys, are you comfortable with what is there anything else you need to add or that you want to say?
Just, he said that we were supplied with the final set of plans 14 days before the meeting. That didn't happen. It came to us the evening of.
Do you guys have any more questions for either set of people here?
I do. I'm a little bit confused. Wind Waste supposedly has a agreement to purchase the property, but Sunny Farm Landfills is the one where the dirt's going to go to. So when did Wind Waste come into the picture, and what does Sunny Farms have to do with this? Because
It was a change of name. Sunny
When
Sunny
did-
Farms equals Wind Waste Senex
when
County.
did that happen?
Middle of last year. More, sometime around middle of last year.
Then I guess if Wind Waste becomes Sunny Farms, is Sunny Farms done? Has it been licked, you know?
It was just a change in name. It's like I changed my name's Dale, so I changed it to Bob. It's no different than that.
Okay, but then the property, why is it still in Sunny Farms landfill? What, I mean,
I don't know.
according to
that-
the auditor's website, the last time I looked, it was still under Sunny Farms. And Wind Waste is applying for the application. I guess I'm a little confused.
The
Can
auditor
you,
probably needs to update his records.
has everything been switched over? Then you're saying?
Well, it's been done the way it's supposed to be done. I
Now,
mean, public records can lag.
okay, now Wind Waste, is this a new company or is it one that's been in existence? Or what's the ownership of Wind Waste? Are there any other, is there any other facilities on Wind Waste? Is this the only one?
So Wind Waste of Seneca County is a subsidiary of Wind Waste Innovations Limited Liability Corporation. So it's like any other large company. You have a top and then a bunch of subsidiaries along with it. That's the case with Wind Waste Seneca County.
So it was newly created last year is what you're saying?
No, that structure has existed probably for the last 4 or 5 years. The name was changed this year, and the name was really changed just for branding purposes. Ben, do you have anything to add to that?
And then, I guess, in your presentation today, how long will it take you to complete this? What's the time
Can I
frame?
swear you in real quick, Ben?
Sure.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. The plan would be to, ideally, we'd like to phase it through approximately a 4-year period. However, we'll adhere to whatever time frame the zoning board would put on us. So that is 1 year with a 1-year extension. We can adhere to that. It would just accelerate the timeline.
So in the original proposal, it was 4 to 5 years, now you're down to 1 to 2 years, is what you're.
If we would like 4 to 5 years, however, if this board would say that we cannot have that, then we would adhere to whatever your board would allow.
So another question, when you have this done, and there's a lake there, my terminology, who's going to maintain this
We would.
forever and ever?
Well, I suppose as long as the world lasts, I don't know. I mean, if someone builds a pond on their property, who maintains that?
Well, usually the next property owner owns it, but what's your guys' intention with it?
You know, our intention would be to make it a useful area for everyone at some point, but we would continue to maintain it for as long as we own it, and then we would pass it on to the next owners if that's what happens.
I think that's a reasonable question, and I think that if the zoning board of appeals has particular concern about that, we're happy to have a conversation, certain board, or come up with some sort of plan that satisfies those concerns.
Because I think it's a concern of the township that it doesn't become a liability to us down the road
Understand that.
and stuff. And it costs money to have somebody mow it and take care of things, like, keep the weeds down.
We would certainly, have all those discussions if that would be something that the township would, prefer, and have a plan, a continuing community host agreement for future purposes of that land. We certainly would discuss those things with the township.
And then, do you currently have any open issues with the Seneca County Health Department, whether it's Sunny Farms landfill or Win Waste? Are there any open issues with them? With either one of the companies, whichever you want to, both of them?
Well, we certainly don't have any open issues with Ohio EPA. No.
That wasn't the question.
I'm asking about, I know.
I'm not answering.
Huh?
I'm not finished answering. So I said, we certainly don't have any open issues with the Ohio EPA. The Seneca County General Health District has expressed very strong opposition to the shipment of waste from out of state to the landfill. We recognize that, it's been all over. But with that almost blinding objection brings with it a level of emotion and bias that is untenable. And that's why Ohio EPA and the public policy of the state of Ohio is to have Ohio EPA have essentially an umbrella regulation over the landfill business in Ohio. So all these landfills are subject to the same set of rules. We're not really seeing that with the Seneca County General Health District. So, do we have any open issues? Yeah, probably from their perspective we do. From our perspective, from a legal perspective, we don't. Now, are we ever going to solve the emotional problems that come out of that organization? Probably not. But we're going to comply with the law and do all the things we're supposed to do under the law? Absolutely.
would like to know about the apiary. Who is going to manage that?
Well,
Will that be farmed out?
there's a couple different options with that, you know, we, in the beginning, we will manage it, we have them at other monofills within the wind waste umbrella, that we manage internally, so we have some folks with that expertise. However, we're open to, you know, options as it relates to that as well. We want to make it the best possible situation, and we would, you know, work with the state, ODNR, et cetera, to make sure that it would be properly maintained and productive.
So currently at the Seneca County facility, there is not a apiary currently, because
We don't have an apiary currently.
at the December 8th meeting, this was proposed to be similar to the same retention pond off of 214 in Seneca County.
Yeah, the one off of 224.
Off of
To the
224.
north of 224.
So there's not one currently on that site.
There isn't, and that's still in production. The intent of that property, again, is a lake, and then we have artist renderings and plans to make that available to the public for boating, recreational purposes, paths, et cetera, because there's a pristine wetlands there that you can't go in, but you can go around, and bird watching, et cetera, which we've also done at several of our other facilities throughout the wind umbrella.
I noticed in the presentation several times that in parentheses, it said shall be permitted. Why was that in parentheses? Or
Could you-
quotation marks?
Yeah.
It's on page 13, it's one of them.
Yeah, still at page 15.
Yeah, in quotation marks.
Oh, 'cause it's a quote out of the zoning resolution.
Okay.
With emphasis.
Shall
on-
does not mean
Yeah.
will.
Shall's mandatory.
Shall is not mandatory.
Okay.
Shall is mandatory.
Look it up. It
Yes,
is.
ma'am.
Okay.
Shall's mandatory.
Moving on.
I Googled it today, it is
Moving
not
on.
mandatory.
When the pond being dug, how is it going to be filled with water? How's it going to get filled up with water? Or is it gonna be half empty, or what's the?
I mean, as we're constructing it, we, you know, all of them collect rainwater and fill. We could discuss how we want that to happen as well. We could work on an accelerated plan to fill it artificially as opposed to rainwater, if that would be something the township would want us to do.
Where does this artificial water come from?
Well, we could pump it from other places that we have. Yeah. We have, again, all of the testing and years' worth of data that show that our water is clean and the landfill operations are not impacting surface or groundwater. And, you know, that would be one option. I don't know that we would do that or if that would make sense, but we certainly could discuss it or investigate it.
Can I ask Randy a question? If it were to be naturally filled, how long would it take that to be a normal level for a pond?
Well, for one, from 216, it'll never get normal level. It's gonna depend on how much rain we get. How much there is other outlet tiles, I believe, that run through that property, and they said they're going to daylight those into the pond. But it could take years naturally. 10 years, maybe more, maybe less.
The Soil and Water Conservation Service kind of addresses this in their letter. So, they indicate that if there are concerns about developing successful ponds, that they can provide guidance upon request. So that's in this November 7th letter.
I guess just to put something into perspective, 27,000 gallons of water is equal to an acre inch. So this is 96 acres almost. And for every inch, multiply 27,000 times 95.8. And that's how many gallons of water for each inch of depth in the pond.
This pond.
I don't recall.
Did you say how deep the
How
pond?
deep was the
Yeah.
pond?
They didn't have a specific range, they just said between 20 and 30 feet.
Trustees? Did the trustees want to say?
Yes. Would any of the trustees like to speak?
Yes.
Jacob, you want to comment?
He needs to respond.
Yeah, I got swear in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Certainly do. I'm Denny Holman, I'm the chairman of the Washington Township Trustees. Want to thank the board for doing your duty here tonight. Thank the zoning commission. There's been a lot of good comments made here. Randy pretty much spelled it all out. Appreciate their application. Your 95 acre lake, and Randy can probably agree with me, there's probably only going to be maybe 70 acres of surface water. The whole south end is going to be exposed. I think I speak for the other trustees. We're pretty convinced this is an industrial use of this land. Appreciate your thought of making it a bee haven, but as I look at your property that surrounds this property, none of that activity is done on any of that. I think that your use, this doesn't fit the intent of our zone is keeping it agriculture. And it sure does lower property values in that entire area. And I would think that you would agree with that. Maybe. You guys have anything to add to that?
I could say something. I am John Grossman, I'm one of the Washington Township Trustees.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. You know, you can't look at the future, so you gotta look at the past. And this landfill has been a terrible neighbor to the people in this area. I've got friends, family that's complained. I myself, I used to go up and look out the window and see which direction the wind's blowing to see if my property was gonna stink. You know, and that's already burnt right into my mind. Whether I was gonna be able to have a party or picnic in that area. And I got friends and family that live close to that landfill and they complain of headaches, they have to burn candles. I looked at that hole they got in the ground by 224, I was told that's gonna become a beautiful place to take your family. And there's 4 rows of train cars of trash, garbage, lined up right beside it. Now who's gonna take their family there to have a picnic? You probably know her, but I'm not gonna mention her name. A lady who was a teacher at St. Wendland High School told me a story. She said, well, you know, the school is closed down. The enrollment really declined when Fostoria started to stink. And the same women was depending on kids from filming other areas. Because they had to pay, you know, it's pretty expensive. I said, when kids would come there saying Stink City, Stink Fostoria, and the kids was from Fostoria, they're saying, hey, this is our city, causing problems between the kids. And who wants to send their kids to a place that stinks and has to pay for it? And that's just what our area is going to be. They take over, they develop one pond, then they want another one, and then another one. And what's this area going to be? Anybody that knows it can go get the hell out. And who's going to move in then? That's all I have to say.
Any more questions?
I had a quick one, just for Mr. Nutter. I saw that aquaculture was defined as the commercial production of algae. Do you have any, is there plans of harvesting and?
Not currently.
Okay.
It was just an option that was available.
A lot of algae.
I think so.
Has everybody, the people here said everything they need to say?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, it's, now it's over to you guys. You can, because it's an administrative function, but it's a quasi-judicial, administrative function, you have the option to retire, to, deliberate privately if you'd like, and come back at a later time and make a decision, or you can make a decision today. It's up to you. I mean, you have those two options.
I move to retire to deliberate with this presentation and to recheck facts that was presented tonight. I feel that we need time to look over and double check the information that was provided tonight. So I would like to retire to deliberate for a month. The Tuesday night, the last Tuesday of April. March. March 26th. We'll reconvene with our decision.
I have a question. Does the prosecutor's office represent?
They represent Washington Township and all of their activities.
So I said the 26th. 26th.
What time and where?
7 o'clock here at this facility.
I would suggest that your secretary here, send out notices to remind, you know, and do the official notice, and also make sure it's published properly.
I'll second that.
Got that, Jake? Yep. All right, I'll do a roll call vote. Mr. James?
Aye.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Graham? Aye. Mr. Bond? Aye. Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to adjourn till that date.
Motion to adjourn. Second it. I second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Meeting's adjourned.